All right. Well, I'm very excited to welcome this week's guest. Let me pull up my little introduction here real quick. Here we go. All right. Sheikh Muhammad Anwar was born in a small village in Punjab province of Pakistan. At a small age, he came to California, and his family settled in Yuba City. And he received his primary and high school education there, and then got an associate's degree from Yuba College. Initially, his search for work brought him to Napa Valley in 1988. And it was then that he received a calling to establish a Muslim place of worship for mandatory daily prayers here in Napa. After praying in a garage that was rented first, and a place of worship on Solano Avenue here in Napa, their lease was terminated after the events of 9/11. While working to build the Muslim community in Napa, he continued his Islamic studies at the Al-Arqam Islamic Institute. He also attended courses at the Darul Uloom Institute in Sacramento, California. He completed his required imam courses online and has been serving as the imam of the American Muslim Society since 1996. His duties as imam include leading Friday prayers along with the daily prayers, performing marriage ceremonies, and teaching children's classes at the mosque here in Napa. And with the grace of God, he recently was blessed with a permanent place of worship at 2820 Jefferson Street here in Napa. Please welcome to the stage, Sheikh Brother Anwar. So Brother Anwar and I just met for the first time kind of middle of last week. We did kind of had a brief phone conversation, and this is our first time kind of meeting in person.
True.
But I have to say that even on the phone, you're a very warm and friendly person.
Thank
so
you.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So if you could take us back in a little bit more detail, one of the things that I ended on in the intro is kind of mind-boggling to me. But you know, one of the things that Pete talks to us about from time to time is how there is kind of a plethora of churches here in Napa. In fact, if you were to like to do like a little bit of a per capita count, like there might be too many churches for the population that we have here in Napa. And you know, a big part of your journey has been there has been no mosque in Napa. So imagine coming here and not having a place to pray, and not having a place to worship. And you didn't find this permanent home until earlier this year. So could you tell us a little bit about that journey of finding this permanent home for you and your congregation?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. Peace and greetings to all. Thank you for giving the opportunity to be with you and share a few thoughts. It's been a very long, hard journey to establish something here for the Muslim faith, mostly from the Muslims. As you know, because they're like, if you want to worship and just like this, you should go back home. I'm like, okay, I'll think about that. But anyways, so we started calling and gathering in garages, and then rented a few places here or there. And so every time, you know, I thought I had it made where I got the community together and we are doing good now. Something happens in the world events where Muslims are considered as evil or barbaric, and 9/11, New Zealand, things like that. That's, you know, had a big setback. I remember after 9/11, we were like, well, should we close the mosque? Everybody's like, we should hide, close the mosque, go into the mountains or something. Mm-hmm. I said, no, we're going to be here. It's going to be okay. But Napa, I'm very lucky to be here. It's been a very good community. And after 9/11, we had a lot of support from the local Napans. So it's been a very, and that encourages you to, hey, what you're doing is, you should keep doing what you're doing. So yeah, and we're a very small community. Mostly people are from the Arabian Peninsula. They all work in the food and beverage. That's what it is, Napa, food and beverage, right? So like people, they say, as Muslim, we don't drink. They're like, if you don't drink, what are you doing here? This is not a place for you. I'm like, well, there's life without wine in Napa. So it's been, yeah, it's been very good. I'm very happy. And communities, I've known the different leaders from the different churches, and Brother Pete and Jay also I know. Yeah, so it's been very good and very supportive.
That's wonderful. Well, congratulations on finding a permanent home.
Thank you very much.
That has to be a huge weight lifting.
Yeah,
for
it is.
you
Yeah, we're looking
your
forward to it. It's a place we got a really good. They wanted 900,000. We got it for 415. I'm like, what's happening here? Somebody up there is making the decisions,
Who's your real estate agent?
Yeah, we are the agent here. Like, and people are like, what? And they said, who did it? I say, one did it. Like one day. There's like, okay, one. I'm referring to God. Like one did it. He's the one who did it. Like, okay, he did it, but who did it? I'm like, he did it. Okay, but then I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. God is poor. He can't do that. That people, because we're so involved in the materialistic world, things happening with means, we forget God is there. He's the one who's running the show. He is with us all the time, and he can make things happen if we just give him a chance.
Yeah. So a quick show of hands, who has ever attended prayers at a mosque? Anyone? Okay.
Recognize the face, yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about Islam and kind of how it all fits in. We had Rabbi Niles here with us last week, and then I also want to talk a little bit about what it would be like if we were all to kind of travel and worship with you at the mosque. So first of all, I think it's really important for us to talk about how Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, we are all, in fact, like literally brothers and sisters, in terms of our relationship with God and with Abraham. So can you kind of talk about that, how we're all kind of praying to the same God and what that tradition is like?
Very true. I'll just back up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe start from Adam.
Sure.
So yeah, Islam. So when God created Adam and he sent him into this world, this was his plan. Then the means happened. Somebody said he ate the apple or whatever. So when he ended up here, so when he was on this earth and then he had progeny, so he needed some guidance, how to live his life while he's here, this long journey. He meaning all of us also. So then he sent prophets and messengers with the manual, which is the holy books. As Muslims, we believe in the true books are the Psalms to David, Bible, Torah, and Quran, which is the final revelation, we believe. So whatever you find in the previous books is all in the Quran, and plus more. There's 30 chapters. Mary, there's chapter on Mary and Jesus, peace be upon them. God talks a lot about Moses in the Quran for some reason, because I guess he had a lot of struggle with his followers. So all that is all laid out, and the beauty of it hasn't been changed. Like nobody's able to take something out and add something. People have tried, even if people are trying now. But God in the Quran says that this time I'm going to protect this book. I'm not going to let it happen what happened to the previous books, where we Muslims believe that books were manipulated, taken out and added stuff.
Mhm.
So, so that's why we are able to, all the Muslims have a clear picture from Adam until now, what happened and how it all played out. So Muslims know a lot about Christians than the Christians know about Muslims. And then Abraham, he, as we know, he had these two sons, Isaac and Ismail. From the progeny of Isaac, Jesus, peace be upon him, comes, we believe. And then 610 years after him came Muhammad from the progeny of Ismail, with the two sons of Abraham. That's why he's called the father of religion. Yeah. So same, all the prophets, they all came with the same message, to believe in God. We're here for a short time. We all have to go back. This is not our home. Our real home is waiting. So our life really starts after we die. Same message as all previous, and try to live your life good. Follow the rules and the regulations. It's like, they're for our protection. It's, for example, I tell my congregation sometimes, DMV California has these booklets. If you follow and drive the cars according to them, you'll be safe and others will be safe from you. But if you try to say, California doesn't know nothing, I know how to drive, and you go on and you'll hurt yourself and hurt others. Likewise, God sent these books for us to live by, so that you can live and let live, so that you're not, and I think our biggest enemy is the ignorance, not knowing each other, which has been a really big problem. It still is a problem in the whole world. That's why we all want to tackle each other and just finish everybody up. Unfortunately, that's not what the God's plan was. So here we are. So Muhammad brought the same message: believe in one God. This was, we believe, Jesus, peace be upon him. So that the three major religions, the Judaism, Christianity, Islam, are monotheist religion, where we all believe in and one God, and then follow the teachings of the prophet of the time. So if I was to born during the time of Jesus, peace be upon him, it would be, it would be for me to follow him at that time. And during the time of Abraham, those who followed, they were successful. Those who, you are always going to have this. You're going to have the believers and the. So here we are, and then Muslims are, if a true Muslim is, if you look at the word Muslim, comes from salam, which is one of the names of God, which means peace. So Muslims are supposed to be peaceful, but I think it's the other way around, because they just don't know their religion. A lot of them, they don't know. They just hear whatever they hear, or whoever is their leader. A lot of the time, people are just blindly following their leaders. So I tell my congregation, you should open up the books and learn yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So within the Quran and within the tradition of Islam, what are the five pillars of Islam that kind of really are the defining tenets of the religion?
Sure.
Can you walk us through what are those five pillars, and a large part of the tradition of Islam is its actual physical practice. So we talked last week with Rabbi Niles about tradition being a big part of Judaism, but physical practice is a huge part of Islam, as we can discuss that. What are the five pillars?
Yeah, true, very true. So there are the five major pillars in Islam. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he tried to give us a description that it is like the canopy, the four corners and the one in the middle. The middle being the first pillar of Islam is the declaration of faith, Shahada. where if a person says that I believe there's no God other than Allah, Allah meaning the God Almighty, though no person can be a God, no prophet can be a God, no thing can be a God, nothing can be a God, no statue can be a God, but God is God, one. And then Muhammad is simply his messenger.
Mhm.
If somebody believes that, then he's a Muslim. He or she is a Muslim. And once they come into Islam, then the other four things come compulsory upon them. So the declaration of faith brings you into the faith. Right away after that comes the 5 daily prayers. They are spread out throughout the day. So the whole idea is 5 daily prayers. Like when Muhammad ascended to to have a meeting with God, he was given 50 prayers per day initially.
So this seems like light work compared to
This, yeah, they're like, oh, 50? So he took it and like, okay, coming back down, we believe he met Moses.
Mhm.
Because we believe on the, all the Jesus, peace be upon him, is living and sitting, waiting on the second sky. And Jesus was in one of the skies. There was the 7 skies.
Mhm.
And Moses, he's like, oh, Muhammad, congratulations on your visit to God. What did you get? He said, I got 50 prayers. Oh, no, bro, go back. I have experience. They're not going to be able to practice that. 50, no way. He said, go back. No.
That's pretty funny. Actually.
Yeah, it's actually a true story. I mean, it's actually what Prophet Muhammad he described when he came back. Because
Moses is like, they can't handle 50.
Yeah, Moses had experience. He knows what people are like, So he said, no way. So he went back and forth, came down to 5. And then after he said, even Moses said, go back. 5 is still too much. He said, I feel shy now. I feel shy going back. When a scholar was narrating this, one of the a person in the congregation, he said, oh, Muhammad, you should have gone back one more. It would have been no prayers at all. You wouldn't have to worry about these 5 prayers. If you had gone back, God would have said, okay.
Give me the pass.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, this, to put some humor into this, but that's exactly. So, but if you do, like for some people, they say, oh, 5, but it's doable. Mm-hmm. God knows us because he created us. He knows what we're capable of or what we're not capable of. Mm-hmm. So 5 prayers. I'm gonna continue. Yeah. So I can talk. You can interrupt me anytime.
This is good. This is good.
I can keep on going. Yeah. So then we have the fasting. 30 days of fasting. It's one every day. It's not continuous fast. We start in the morning, break in the evening.
So from sun up to sundown.
Basically, sun up to, But the hardest thing is no water and nothing at all.
Yeah, that is tough.
It's kind of, in the summer months it's hard, but it's getting better because we use a lunar calendar. So every year is 10 days ahead. So we're going to go into the winter pretty soon. Right. Shortest days. So that, and then we have the charity, 2.5% of your excess wealth. So I earn $10,000 a month. It's pretty good income, hopefully. And then my expenses are $8,000 because the rent is so expensive. And then the $2,000 I have to pay 2.5% on that.
Got it.
So, and then the last one is pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina to the holy sites. If you can afford, if you're well-to-do, you have enough money, all your expenses are taken care, your bills are paid, and you have left, and and have enough to buy the ticket and then spend a couple of days, couple of weeks there is good. Right. So that's if you can afford. So these are the 5 pillars.
And so the fasting, that the 30 days of fasting that you mentioned, that's around a specific time of year. Yeah. And what is that time and what is the significance of the 30 days?
So we have the Islamic calendar, which goes with the moon. It has 12 months also. The months are either 29 days or 30 days, 29, 30, depending on when we see the moon. So every month, a new month starts with the sighting of the moon. So that's why we gain, so the Islamic calendar is 10 days shorter, roughly,
Right.
than the Gregorian. Yeah. So, and then there's the Ramadan. One of the month name is Ramadan. Then there's a month named Hajj, where you go for the Hajj.
Right.
And Ramadan, and Zakat is a charity. So every month has, some special
purpose. Yeah.
So when the month of Ramadan comes, then everybody knows it's fasting month, and it comes every year.
Got it. So, and why is there significance why it's that specific month? In the month of fasting, what is the purpose of the fasting? Are you trying to remember something? Are you trying to honor something?
Yeah. So in the Holy Quran, God is saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam kama kutiba alal lazina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. I will translate. So God is saying, oh, you who believe, we have prescribed. Sometimes he says I, sometimes he says we. So
he can say what he wants.
Yeah, that's so we prescribed for you fasting like it was prescribed for those before you, meaning the Jews and the Christians, so that you can achieve piety. So you can become more God-fearing, more closer to God. That is the whole idea.
Got it.
You stay hungry, you become more devotion to God, and you feel for the others around you, so that you throughout the year, you're busy with your thing, and then take this time off, get closer to God and fulfill the purpose of your creation.
So this hunger that you cultivate through this fasting, it kind of becomes a metaphor for our hunger for God.
There you go.
And it also is a tool to teach us like compassion for others who are struggling or experiencing hunger.
Very true, yeah.
Okay.
Very true.
And then you also mentioned one of the pillars being the pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina. First of all, where are these places? Because I'm terrible at geography. And then and what is the significance of them? Why are they so important?
Yeah, so these are in Saudi Arabia. And so Mecca, the Kaaba, the house that we don't worship to, but we face that way. So that was built by Abraham and his son, Isaac or Ishmael. And that's been there since then. So when we go see and that's where Muhammad was born also, in Mecca. When he was born, Meccans were idol worshippers, which is a big no-no in the eyes of God. So,
right.
God in Islam, we believe he'll forgive everything, but not association partners with him, which is really a bigger sin. So then, so his mission was to clean the Kaaba out of the idols and establish God's word there. And then, of course, like all prophets, he had very hard time in the beginning. Every time you want to establish something good, you are going to face obstacles, and then that just tells you that what you're doing is right. And so he did his best, and then so much persecution from Meccans, though, where they tried to kill him. So then God asked him to migrate to Medina, which is from like Northern California to Southern California.
Okay.
So from here to LA.
Yeah.
So that journey in those days was a long journey. So, and then he lived there, and he died there also. So he have his grave there. So Two things people do is they go visit the Kaaba, do the tawaf of the Kaaba. You go around the Kaaba 7 times. We believe there's always angels that are doing the tawaf, which is going around the Kaaba. So if you see the Kaaba, there's people continuously, there's no stop. And then also say salam and the greetings to the grave of the Prophet. We believe that he's there alive, living, waiting for this whole movie to end. so that we can all raise up and go home. You know, because we're inheritors of paradise because our father lived there. You know, when you have your father owns a house and you become inheritors of the house. So Adam was in heaven, so we have some share of that. You know, so that's where we're hoping to all go. Right. You know, because there's the other place too. So, it was scary stuff, you know. So, and then, sorry, where was I? No, just kidding. So I want everybody to stay awake here, you know. So that's why we crack your jokes. So no, you know, so you're not, you're all fall asleep. This is the last thing we want to hear. So the where was I, man?
yeah. So you had just mentioned like the significance of Medina.
Medina. So his grave is there, and when we walk by and we say salam, O Prophet, and we believe his teaching from that he replies. We can't just hear him. We can't hear him, but he actually is there. Like all the prophets are, Jesus is still actually there waiting. Moses is there too somewhere, I don't know. But anyway, I love Moses because he's mentioned 25 times in the Quran, more than Muhammad himself. Yeah. And Jesus, peace be upon him, and Mary. Yeah. Because God wanted to give us the whole picture, what happened. Don't do the same mistakes happened in the past. Right. So he wanted to say, hey, look, they did this, and you guys don't do that. Stick with this, you know. So that's why Prophet Muhammad said, I'm leaving behind 2 things. If you hold on to that, you will not be misguided. You will not become victims of shaitan or any. That is the Quran and his way. Just 2 major things that Muslims try to hold on to. Right. But then there's others, people try to bring in stuff, take our stuff, you know. All crazy people doing crazy things.
The pilgrimage is a really fascinating part of the pillars to me. One of my favorite stories about the pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina is we probably all heard of Malcolm X, right? And Brother Malcolm before his pilgrimage was a rather militant man for his time, and on his pilgrimage to Mecca, he realizes that the world of Islam is bigger and more full of love and more diverse than he had been told. Because in his time, on his pilgrimage, he is surrounded by men and women of different races from all over the world.
Very true.
And it's that act of going through this pilgrimage together where he has this incredibly beautiful revelation.
True.
That actually what he is called to do is love his brothers and sisters. Yeah. And he comes back from this pilgrimage a very different man.
Very true.
Than when he left. And it's such a powerful and very public example of the power of this journey that Muslims are called to take.
And that's where he realized the white man is not the devil.
Right. Right. I mean, it gives me chills to think about that. That someone who is this vocal and is this public about his thoughts can have this meaningful change, beautiful and meaningful change of heart through this act.
Very true.
That's a powerful.
Yeah, I've been there many times. Believe me, you come back a new man every time you go in. There's definitely very special. I know it's not for now Muslims are controlling it, but it was a place for Jews and the Christians also. You know, so it's a lot of history there. We believe the God's throne is where that up there that's where
Is anchored to that
anchor.
specific
Yeah,
place.
and that was the first place that was built on the earth. Yeah. So a lot of history. If you go into we don't have time to go into details, but it's a lot of history there.
Sure.
And when you do, definitely you do feel something.
Right.
Yeah.
We talked with Rabbi Niles last week a little bit about how Christianity has these different denominations and Islam does as well, but it's slightly different because the vast overwhelming majority of Muslims are Sunni.
Sunnis.
But then there are also a few other sects that have a little bit more prominence. So can you talk to us about what is the difference between like Sunni and Shia, Sufi, and then maybe Khawarij?
Khawarij, yeah, there's many sects.
Yeah.
Major is the Sunni, like you said. And then the other bigger of the others, smaller ones are Shia. This happened, the separation happened when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, passed away. The Shias thought that Ali, who was his cousin, brother relative, and was married to his daughter, should be the successor. And they said that he did advise that, but there was no evidence that he said that he should be my successor. And those around him, he was a young man also at that time. So those around him made the wise Abu Bakr or Omar as the leaders after him. So then those guys say, hey, we're gonna go our own way.
Right.
So that's where the Shias, because they try to give preference to the family of the Prophet, which in Islam, God saying that I don't give preference to anybody, no color, no race, no religion, except the one who is more pious, is more closer to me. So it doesn't mean a white man is more closer to God than the black man. It's among them who is more pious, who's God-fearing, is the one that God prefers.
That's what God values.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's how the Shia split. And then there's a small number, mostly in Iran, and they have a little bit of strict version of Islam and some things, and then very loose in other things. So it's like whatever they like to do. It's all about what works for me. And then also after that is the Sufis. Sufis are actually really nice. I'm not a Sufi, but I love Sufis. They're so mellow, easygoing, sort of like me,
Yeah.
So I fit with them, but then my people will, I won't be their imam for very long if I become a Sufi. But I welcome them. We have a lot of big communities, Sufi community in Pope Valley. Mostly they are all white Americans, men and women, because Sufi version of Islam is take it easy, bro. Yeah, 5 prayers, if you can do it, okay,
Yeah. The famous poet Rumi was
Rumi, yeah.
Sufi,
Rumi is very popular here too, yeah. So I love Sufis, and then I get accused of being Sufi, undercover Sufi agent. But anyways, they're just, and I believe even Shia come to my mosque, I'm okay with that.
Sure.
I don't look into these little things.
Yeah.
And I don't think God is he don't nitty gritty also, because God is big and beyond,
And the pillars are the same.
The pillars are same, as long as you're not, doing major, associating that I'm the God, then I'm going to have problem with you,
Right.
But other than that, you're okay. You're welcome. I welcome everybody. And then a few other also. It's like, I don't get along with you, I'm going to go open up my own, make my own sect.
Right.
Just because I want to be the boss. Yeah.
So if we were to attend your mosque,
please do.
Thank you. I will.
You're all invited.
I'll take you up on that. I look forward to that. What would it be like? What would the experience be like? What is a typical kind of service when one attends a mosque?
So unfortunately, a lot of time happens. It depends which masjids you go to, which city where you are, or who are the majority of the attendees there.
Mhm.
Some people, they try to mix custom into religion.
Mhm.
So, and it has nothing to do with Islam.
Mhm.
But in Islam, everybody should be able to come in and do whatever they want, pray to God. If you were to come to my masjid or mosque, I have trained my congregation that, hey, we're not in Pakistan, or we're not in Saudi Arabia, we're in America here, and everybody's welcome.
Mhm.
And nobody says nothing to nobody, because that's what happens in Mecca too.
Mhm.
People from all over the world, they go,
Right.
nobody says nothing to nobody.
Yeah.
And that's what, was the greatest thing. There is no discrimination.
Mhm.
So I said, whoever comes in, we open our doors for them. Sort of like here too, I feel like.
Mhm.
Yes, crosswalk is something like that too.
Yeah, we try anyway.
Yeah,
Thank you.
this is all God. So, so if you were to come in, mostly biggest congregation is Friday prayers, just like Sunday service here.
Mhm.
In Napa, we're getting about 60 men
Mhm.
and about 10 sisters.
Mhm.
So you need more sisters, please, because the number is very small. Yeah, so you're welcome. If I'm there, don't worry. But if I'm not there, you may have like people looking at you.
Yeah, who's this guy?
Yeah, who's this guy?
that's
What
fine.
are you doing? And then when you come into the masjid, feel free to shake hand with same gender,
Mhm.
not the opposite gender.
Mhm.
So this one, Muslims try to. We feel like if I touch opposite gender, which I'm not related to, I will lose the spirituality. So a lot of people, they go like, so I go like, when the women want to shake my hand, I'm like, okay, so like that. Funny thing was, one of the Sufi sisters, she said after the prayer, she said, Imam, can I give you a hug? I'm like, oh, maybe an air hug, because we don't do that. So like, but she didn't know. So I didn't want to hurt her. So because she's American, So, but yeah, you're welcome. But unfortunately, I can't say that about every mosque. Sometimes some mosques don't even have a place for women to worship, because it's majority male dominated. And then some imams, you go in, mostly they don't speak English, or they're from India, they can't talk good English, like that too. So unfortunately, we are very far away from the true Islam, we Muslims ourselves. And I consider myself also a student all the time. But you should be able to, majority of the people, they will welcome you and they'll be happy, and they'll try to explain to you. First thing they'll do, try to give you the Quran. And I tell them, hey, they're not coming here for Quran. They want to know you. Is Quran in your life?
Right. Right.
Or you just want to take the easy route out and then give the Quran and say, hey, here you go. No, but the Quran should. So that's why Aisha, the youngest wife of the Prophet, which is a very, controversial. I want you guys to throw everything at me, because
we'll get to questions at the end.
Yeah,
for sure.
we're gonna do that. But so she said that he was walking Quran. That's what every Muslim should be, is a walking Quran. What is in the Quran should be in their life. So we have it all here, but it's not in our actions.
Right. So there would be there's a prayer, like a very specific prayer that takes place.
Yes. So Friday services are sermon, then followed by prayer. We try to, because it's a work day for most of people, they take their lunch break to come and do their prayer quickly and go. So I try to finish everything in 30 minutes, within 30 minutes. 20 minutes of talk, 10 minutes of prayer, and then people go out.
And the ritual of the prayer is very...
So if you want, I can demonstrate to you. Most of you may have seen it on the TV. It's a physical
Right.
and spiritual prayer, which we face Mecca, and there's a lot of other requirements. One thing I advise you that because we don't use the chairs, but we have chairs for the elderly. So if you wear, that's why we wear loose, baggy clothes, and also try to cover yourself. Muslims believe that for the men above, below the navel and the knees, they should be all covered all the time, shouldn't it? So if somebody coming into the mosque with shorts, it's gonna everybody's gonna be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So anyway, one time happened, I was giving the sermon, one Muslim guy came in because he's been here a long time. So he's basically American. He walks in, with the shorts, and everybody's like, ooh. I said, calm down. But so I gave him a little prayer rug. I told him, hey, wrap that around you, pray with us. So now he's one of my biggest contributors.
Great. Yeah. And I think we also talked about that often there is a veil or a separation between men and women within the mosque. But I wanted you to tell me the story about the Sufi woman who came and the compromise that you reached, because I think this is an example of how progressive you are, I think.
Yeah. So in Islam, because when we are praying, we are trying to connect with God. And we don't want any other obstacles,
distractions,
and or distractions. And we think woman is the biggest. No, no, I'm just saying that from me. Okay, so that's why we corner them. Not, but I think a lot of people. If I'm praying here and there's a beautiful woman praying next to me, I'm not going to be very concentrated.
You're trying to remove.
Yeah, so we try to remove that. So in Islam, it is encouraged for the woman to pray at home.
Okay, and not even to come. Okay.
But they're not completely stopped. They're not prohibited, but they encourage. If they pray home, it's better. They get rewarded more.
Okay.
So that they can, keep peace.
Right.
Peace everywhere. But in America, we're like, what? You're going to put us back? And I said, no, you come in. So we had a lot of American, white American Sufis. Mostly they are. So they lost their place in Pope Valley. They burned during the fires. And so they started coming praying with us. And we're like, oh, welcome. We're happy. So the men sit with the men, and then we have a place. Usually there's a veil, a small curtain like that between men and women, so they can concentrate, we can concentrate. But this American sister, Muslim, she comes in, first thing she does is removes the curtain. Like that. And then nobody said anything, because it's house of God. Next Friday, she comes in, does the same thing again. And then third Friday, she comes in. Then the other Arab sisters, they're like, no, we got a problem here. So after the prayer ended, I didn't say nothing. So we finished the prayer, everybody going. Then I went back. I said, ladies, let's sit down and talk about this, what's happening here. So she's like, we're not in Kabul. I want to see you. When you're giving the speech, when you're talking, I want to know, I want to hear it. I said, okay, makes a lot of sense. And then the Arab sister, like, brother, I want to just pray, in privacy. I said, makes sense too. So I said, what about if we do this? Let's have the curtain open halfway and close the other half.
Right.
They said, brilliant. So the American sister sitting here,
right?
She's laughing when I'm talking. She said, Imam, you crack me up. I didn't mean to do that, but sorry, it happened. But then the other sisters are over there, doing the beads. They're like, oh my God, oh Lord, help us. So it's working out good. Yeah. Ever since that, we have no problem.
I love this story because, again, it for me, it reminds me of the fact that this is, like, imagine if this was the only church in town. And all the different Christians that were here in Napa that we have, we've talked about how it's kind of a rainbow of Christianity here. They're all coming to the same church. And so you have to find a way to to love them all,
Yeah.
to be able to be a leader for them all spiritually and otherwise. So
and they all
such a
come
cool
from
story.
different countries of the world.
Right. And
we
with
have the
different traditions.
Egyptians,
Yeah.
which are like, they are my biggest critics.
Okay.
And they'll interrupt me. In Islam, when the imam is giving the speech, you're supposed to listen. If he makes something or says something, and at the end of the prayer, you talk with him.
Right.
He'll interrupt me in the middle of the prayer.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then everybody's, and then he'll remind, not good to talk during the prayer or when the imam is talking. I say, what? What are you saying? They say, well, you said this wrong. I say, I'm wrong, he's right.
Let's move on.
End of the question.
Yeah.
So, and then we have the Saudis, which are very strict Sharia law,
Right.
which we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Sharia law. No.
That's a big next lead-in for sure.
And then, Pakistanis and Indian, they come to me, brother, this should be like this, I'm like, okay, brother, you're in America, by the way, what does this mean? Is that a yes or a no? I don't know what you're saying, because everything I ask him or tell him, he just keeps going like that. I'm like, you agree with me or no?
Right.
So you have all these different, it's very difficult to manage.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean,
thank God it's a small community.
Right.
I'm able to handle. Otherwise, if I was in a bigger community, I would be like dead by now with stress.
Yeah. You mentioned Sharia law, so I'll kind of.
I didn't mean to.
But well, yeah. We were going to get to it. So.
No.
But especially, I think probably starting around the time of the Iran hostage crisis in the 70s, but certainly post 9/11. We in the West have had a huge kind of increased appetite for negative stories surrounding Islam. Yeah. And what I mean by that is if something bad happens in the world of Islam, we're going to hear about it. Without a doubt, it kind of gets pushed to the front of the news cycle. And so there's kind of a preponderance of negative stories surrounding Islam.
True.
And so obviously we've heard a lot about Islamic extremism, and I think more recently, the abuse of Sharia law.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wouldn't mind, kind of, can you illuminate kind of what is Sharia law and how you feel both Sharia and the Quran are perhaps getting manipulated by, as you mentioned previously, leaders, as opposed to the Quran itself.
Yeah, so Sharia law is the do's and the don'ts in Islam, where if we had an Islamic government, that would be the constitution.
Right.
And then the country would be run by the Sharia law. Now, Sharia law is from God.
Mm-hmm.
It's not from Muhammad. It's not from anybody. So God is all loving, all knowing, and He's more merciful. His mercy overpowers His anger.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a really beautiful sentiment that I don't think gets expressed in the stories that we hear or read about Islam.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. God, His mercy, what we see among us and in this world is only 1% of His mercy. The other 99% will feel and see on the day of judgment when we are with Him.
Mm-hmm.
So with that 1%, how the mother loves the child, how the bird feeds the child, all this love among His creation is just 1% of His mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And then imagine the other 99%. So He is the most merciful. That's why I started my talk, the most gracious, most merciful.
Mm-hmm.
So Sharia law is from there. But then let me give you one example. During the time of the Prophet, he lived by the Sharia law and he practiced. We had one woman came in and who did adultery.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes into the Prophet. She said, "Prophet, I did made a mistake. I want you to, do the sentence on me. He looked the other way. Then, but she comes around from this side. Say, Prophet, did you not hear me? So he goes the other way, like he don't want to hear it. Then at the end, then he called his companion. Is she crazy? Maybe check her out. Maybe she's crazy. He's trying to let her go away. You did something that's between you and God. You don't have to tell me. And that's something, so God is most merciful. He's forgiving. But then they say they checked her out. Nanda says she's fine. Then he said, go back, come back to me after 4 months. So, okay, so after 4 months, he would know if she's pregnant or not. Because we believe 4 months, then when the baby starts moving and the soul is blown into the baby.
Right.
So for sure, she comes back and she was pregnant. So he said, go now, have the baby, and then come back to me. She just, because he's saying maybe she'll forget about it, and just she won't come back. But she keeps coming back. And then she comes with the baby now. He goes, go back, come back to me when the baby can eat on its own. 2 years or something like that. Year and a half. Comes back again. Right? Prophet is, now he said, I have to carry out the law of God. If you had just, forgiven, he would have forgiven you, if you had just forgotten about it and lived your life, and then also repentance. But now since you are coming again and again, now I have to. So she was punished. So likewise, if you have Sharia law, now if the case goes to the court, they don't want cases come to them. They don't look for them. But then they have to pass out sometime the laws are strict. But then we have to remember that they're not man-made. They're from God. So what is the wisdom behind it? Only God knows. So Sharia law, it does, seem very strict, but it's at the last resort. It's like someone is really, he's really asking for it. But it's not like, they just want to cut necks and they just want to cut the woman. It's not like that. And it's a lot of it. People, like many of these judges, if they would hear this story of the prophet, they would, have different thoughts of punishing and carrying out handing out the sentences. So that's why it's very misunderstood, and then also not practiced in many countries now. Taliban, they try to do that, but it backfired on them because God doesn't want that. Even though the law is there, but he doesn't want it, because he's all loving. So, but it is something we cannot deny. I can try to sugarcoat it, everything here, but I want to give you the way it is. It's all in the Quran. And if you don't follow the Quran, then we're not following God.
Right. Right.
So we have to carry out.
Yeah, that's a tough line to walk.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Does anyone have any questions? We've covered a lot of things. I would, one kind of question I have, I guess, for you would be, in your experiences with non-Muslims, what do you feel are the biggest misconceptions that you see about Islam? And what are the things that you wish, we as non-Muslims knew?
I think one thing I hear a lot is jihad, the word jihad. Jihad literally means day-to-day struggle to do good. Not to lie, not to cheat, the IRS, You know, that kind of struggle to be good and God-fearing person. That's what jihad is. But that's probably not what you guys understand, right? So in Islam, jihad is there, which means you only fight in defensive. For example, you come to my house and you like, I'm like, I'm going to be the nice guy. Okay, here. Then eventually I'm going to have to give you one. So that is jihad. So when I fight you back, then you say, he's right, me back. But that's jihad. I have to protect myself.
Right.
So that's what jihad is. That one thing. And then the other thing about treatment to the woman, I think maybe. We just talk about this, they being in the.
Yep.
But in Islam, if you look at the teachings of the Prophet, he said the best among you, he's talking to the men, most of them married. The best, I'm talking to the men here also, the best among you is the one who's good to their wives. That's the Prophet said.
Right.
So meaning treat the woman, they have a lot of rights. In the Western world, we hear the women don't have rights, but actually in Islam, if you study the true Islam, woman has the most right than any other religion. She doesn't have to breastfeed the baby if she doesn't want to. She doesn't have to cook for the husband. She doesn't have to do anything because man is the one who's responsible. If she likes on her own, that's good. I think so. There's a mistreatment of the woman. No, a lot of that comes from the culture.
Right, as opposed to from the religious
and
practice,
then and then the people outside, they just see a Muslim, punching his wife, or were they in Afghanistan? They cut the nose. It's crazy, right? They're like, but that's just Afghanis doing that. That's not Islam. Or that's just Pakistani, or somebody. If the girl wants to date a guy and then they put the acid, crazy stuff like that. That's just culture. It's not Islam. So I think that's one thing. There's a lot of misunderstanding about many of the topics. It's not just one topic. Jihad, treatment of the woman, extremists. Crazy people you're going to have everywhere. And in Islam, we seem to have a lot. For some reason. So we are ignorant about our own religion. Right. So a lot of my congregation, when I talk to them and they're like, their eyes are open. Oh, like, really? I say, you've been Muslim for 40 years. You don't know the basics, and then people look at you as a Muslim, and then if you do something crazy, they're going to say, Islam, see?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Anyone else have any other questions?
I think they're satisfied with my answer.
Well, Brother Anwar, thank you so much for your time. Oh, yeah, sure. Please.
60 men, 10 women. So we got 50 more women, 40 more. 50 more women. So you can all come one day.
Great. All right. Well, Brother Anwar, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Big round of applause for Sheikh Muhammad.
Yeah. So nice. Thank you very much, everyone, for putting up with me and listening to my talk.
No.
Was it talk or more like a stand-up comedy?
Please,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, we'll go ahead and finish with a benediction and our Lord's Prayer, as we do every Sunday. Go ahead and get comfortable. Close your eyes. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Thank you all so much for coming. We'll see you next week.